man.
You
Well,
know what this movie tasted like? America.
it's just like pancakes. All right, so we just got out of the 1517 to Paris, which a few hours ago when we reviewed Peter Rabbit, I had said like, this is probably the most shockingly like good movies that you and I have reviewed together. You know what? It's all good because the 1517 to Paris is one of the most shockingly bad movies we've reviewed together.
When they started it, and one of the very first scenes is like, "Hey guys, this is me and my buds. Bet you're wondering how I got here. Well, let me take it back." I thought it looked like someone's home movie.
It felt like the lost sequel to the Buttercream Gang.
Hey guys, copy that.
Hey guys, welcome to EV Games. Oh, you're a terrorist on this train. Copy that.
I'm really glad that you told me that it was the guys playing themselves, because that made it so much more interesting than anything in the actual film.
Well, first and foremost, I need to apologize over my review of 50 Shades Freed. Turns out it is not the worst movie that is opening this weekend. This one, I even need to apologize to the acting in 50 Shades Freed. Because while this movie doesn't necessarily make 50 Shades Freed a well-acted film, because it most certainly does not, but this one, I'll give slack certainly to the three main guys in this movie. They're not professional actors. They're just playing themselves, and that's kind of the experiment they're doing here with this movie, where they're doing this incident and then their backstory, and they're having the guys play themselves. But everyone else in this movie who are professional actors are just as bad as the non-professional actors.
You were saying this. Why were there so many comedians in this?
It is
when fucking Jaleel White shows up.
Oh,
what? Why is he here? And it ends with his very last line is, "Oh, those boys." What?
You know what the weird thing is? Urkel was the best acting in this movie.
He was. But you know what? They were given some dog shit lines. This script was amateur hour.
A professional actor could not have done the lines that these three lead guys could have done. I know so because this movie does also have professional actors in it, and they couldn't make anything of the material that they're given. The only one, it's flabbergasting that you're seeing this Clint Eastwood produced and directed movie, this mainstream release, and about a terrorist attack on a train, and this hard drama, and you can legitimately say the only good performance in this movie is Steve Urkel. What is with this movie?
I don't understand any of the, as far as the acting with the main three guys, I mean, you're right. They aren't professional actors, and I would say, to be fair, I don't think there were parts where I don't think they were too bad for people who were
every
not
now
actors.
and then.
You could tell they were comfortable with each other because they are friends.
Yeah,
and they came off some dudes that were trying. I think there were some clunky lines where it got really really iffy, but I don't know if their acting was the problem. Overall, everything just came off like it should not be a movie.
A lot of it came across like it's a 50-year-old white guy writing lines for a black guy in several parts in this movie. Hey bro, what you doing? Chillin'. I'm just chillin'. You know me, just sitting here on Skype. I be chillin'. He does say chillin' more than once in this scene.
He loves selfies. That seemed to be his only character trait that they took away from this guy's life, is that he loves selfies.
And when he's a kid and he's teaching him do the boom, poo, poo, bam, and they're sitting there wow, that's cool. Yeah, man, that is cool. And then he teaches it to dude's mom. He's like, she's like,
Right.
what is up? And he's like, yes, poop, bam, like that. And the mom's like, ooh, well, isn't that interesting? Like, okay, settle down, 1957.
Right.
Like,
Judy Greer for some reason.
okay, yeah, to go back to the casting, okay. The one dude's mom is Judy Greer. Other dude's mom is Jenna Fisher. Their gym coach is Tony Hale. The principal is Tom Lennon. We've already said the other teacher, Jaleel fucking White. What universe is this movie?
It was so weird because it made it seem even more parody, because there were a lot of lines in this that I expected a joke to follow, because the worst line, the absolute worst line, is when they have the scene where the teacher is talking to them about ADD, I will get into that.
I'm going to get into that too.
You know what line I'm going to talk about,
I think
right?
I do, yeah.
Where the woman's talking about, like, single moms and, like, kids are more likely to be troublemakers with single parents or whatever. And she goes, like, my God is stronger than your statistics.
I'm like, I need to apologize for saying that the dialogue in 50 Shades 3 was akin to a Pure Flix film.
It was weird. It was weird, the sanctimoniousness about this. The fact that they were acting like, how dare you say ADHD might be a thing.
I hated that scene.
That was terrible. Like, they were acting like it was, you can just take care of a legitimate condition with just prayer, which is ridiculous because, like, I'm a Christian, okay?
Yeah.
Like, but I don't believe that medicine is bad, or taking care of psychological issues or imbalances or anything like that is bad. It's ridiculous for them to ever present that.
I have severe ADD, and I grew up going to Christian schools, and I hated that scene in this movie.
It was in a Christian school, which is weird that she was acting all sanctimonious about it. Like they didn't believe in God for suggesting medication.
She was acting
weird.
She was acting like somebody, and this is Jenna Fisher. Jenna Fisher says the line about statistics and God, and the other mom is Judy Greer. They were acting like two parents who were probably huge fans of the movie Vaxxed. Like, they acted a lot like the people I remember in the audience for that fucking movie. This is the opening scene, by the way, and it really sets the tone for the rest of it.
Yeah.
Like, because it is this giant anti-ADD PSA in which I'm sitting there yelling, I mean, not literally yelling at the screen, but in my head I am, because God, I think one of the things I hate the most about this fucking movie is that there were more people in there than in Peter Rabbit. So the teacher is saying, like, no, your kids have a problem with focus. It's a serious problem. They can't concentrate. They can't study on their reading, and it's severely affecting their grades. They're sitting here in class just staring out the window. And one of the moms, either Judy Greer or Jenna Fisher, says, oh, so it's uncommon for a kid to look out the window now? It's like, shut your dumb shit mom mouth. Like, you're probably a huge, this movie is to ADD what Mom's Night Out is to postpartum depression. The only difference is it's really just in one scene in this movie, but I'm sitting there like
they were right about it. That's what's really shitty.
I hate that. I'm sitting there like, okay, the problem isn't that they're simply looking out the window. The problem is that they're probably sitting there the entire time staring out the window because they're distracted, because they most likely have ADD. Yeah. At the very least. Who knows? Maybe they don't. That is something that can be false diagnosed to somebody. Certainly. At the very least, take that statistics line and shove it up your ass and go see a fucking doctor. But what kind of school is this, for one? Because later on in the movie, plot points just kind of happen in this film. So Tom Lennon, who is the principal in the film, Tom Lennon, who's the principal, says to Jenna Fisher, like, look, we've had serious discussions. We think your son needs to move in with his dad.
And then he does. Like, what?
I'm like, what is, okay.
Well, okay, their problem, apparently all of the trouble they're causing is just standing in the hallway for 2 seconds too long.
Boys, you have a hall pass? Like 2 seconds after the bell rings. Boys, you have a hall pass? No. Principal's office.
That's the only thing they ever show them doing that's troublemaking. Like, it just seems like there's a severe problem with this school.
Tom Lennon is judge and jury on which parent the kid should live with, and he's the principal. Like, okay, I don't know if there's some other factors to this story that we're missing. I don't know if this
I feel like we have to be
there has
something.
to be. If this conversation happened in real life where the principal of this school said, look, we've had a discussion and your kid's gonna go live with his father, like, there is just elements missing out of this story. We never see Jenna Fisher ever abuse this kid or do anything that would even imply that the kid should live somewhere else. She's a dumbass with the ADD scene.
Maybe if she properly diagnosed ADD.
Yeah, but I mean, Judy Greer was guilty of that shit too. Like, for a moment in the first like 10 minutes of the movie, I thought, like, are Judy Greer and Jenna Fisher like lesbian parents in this?
Yeah, they always had the teacher meetings together.
They were always doing everything together.
Yeah, as if that's like how parent-teacher meetings go. Just the two parents together. And can we talk about the National Guard, Air Force, military propaganda through the whole movie, to the point where the kids are just wearing camo when they're kids, just the two military kids, just so you know in the future that they're going to be doing that.
And there's a Letters from Iwo Jima poster on his wall.
Full Metal Jacket.
And Full Metal Jacket. Well, the Iwo Jima one was more important because that was the Eastwood movie.
Oh, right.
So, and the mom says things like, I know you're passionate about war. Every time they mention war on TV, you jump up with excitement. I'm like, that's kind of again, context, please. That could kind of go either way, provided the context of what this line is. I hated this fucking movie. Like, this movie is 90 minutes and it feels like a train ride from here to Paris, and we're in Illinois.
Well, it felt so long. And the thing is, like, when you hear that they're making a movie about this incident, where there's a terrorist on the train, and these guys, there were four of them, the fourth guy gets no screen time or story at all. I was like, what fourth guy?
Who was the fourth guy?
They said we're here to honor four men when the president of France is there. And there was another guy they were giving a medal, but we don't know who that guy is.
Was he the guy who was shot?
No, it was a different guy.
Oh, okay.
But, like,
I missed that.
So, yeah, that happened. But, like, when you hear about that these four guys came together and took down this terrorist on this train, and this guy was seriously injured, like, the actual story and what they did, that's great that they came together for that. So I'm not knocking these guys, but it is a very short event. And when you think about it, you're like, all right, so what story do we have to fill a 90-minute movie here? And it turns out nothing. You have nothing, because the rest of it it's just things happening. Either really clunky things like throwing in dialogue. You ever think, like, we're here for some bigger purpose, man? Like, leading us towards something? Or you just have them having their vacation in Europe doing nothing interesting.
Oh, okay. Well, it's, yeah, like, with that line about you saying, like, with the dude saying, like, you ever think we're pushed to something greater? They repeat that, like, 3 times in this movie.
As if, like, fate. Oh, they even have, like, the one mom going, like, I prayed to God and he said something good would happen in your future. I can't wait to see what it is. As if they're like, don't worry, guys, the terrorist part's coming. It's coming, guys.
Something big's in your future. You're gonna star in the worst movie Clint Eastwood ever directed.
She turns into a fortune cookie for a second there. Like, big things are coming.
That was a lot of it is set up for what you're about to see, like even the guy's bullet wound and how they fix it, but what you're saying
to it at certain parts of the movie, like, you know, like, it's out of sequence.
It's structured exactly like I thought it was going to be. You see something on the train, it flashes back. You see something on the train and it flashes back. And it is structured a lot. Like, the problem you just mentioned with this was also a problem that the last Eastwood movie had, which was Sully, the one where Tom Hanks, the Miracle on the Hudson. Because again, it's another thing that was a relatively short-ish event to the point to where they kind of had to pad it with some other things. And again, it was only like 90 minutes long. And it repeated a lot of the same scenes too. Like, it had some problems, but it was better than this, because at the end of the day, it's still, at least it's a movie starring Tom Hanks. Like, the acting's really good. It has some really good scenes in it. In this, I've seen exploitation films where they have to pad themselves out by having a character go to like a lounge or see some random concert starring, I don't know, one of the director's friends, like fucking Johnny Charo and Another Son of Sam, or Mr. No Legs did that. 3 on a Meat Hook does that. This movie takes that and runs with it, because it's like half of the movie that is just them bumming around Amsterdam and Venice.
When they when the movie was starting and it was talking about like their childhood and then him going into the military and then like failing at certain aspects of it, like getting to the positions he wanted and stuff, like I was like, this isn't really that interesting. I was like, all right, once it gets to the part where they're in Europe and they're going to go to the train and then they're going to get to the terrorist part, like I'm like, that's where it'll pick up. They get to Europe and the movie comes to a dead stop.
For what has to be 40 minutes of this movie.
Like, there's a part where they're just ordering gelatos and you can just go through the orders. I was thinking at least twice in this movie about, like, that scene in The Room where they're in the coffee shop and you just go through every customer's order for no reason. They were doing that. Like, they have, like, when the our Air Force recruitment guy, or the Marine guy, goes into, like, the yogurt place that he's working at, and he's like ordering the yogurt, and then like they go and get some gelato later in Europe, and just no interest whatsoever. Like,
I could use some pizza. I want a pizza that.
It was,
man, they like the way that some of these actors have to. Another thing reminded me about The Room too, like how they had to give Tommy Wiseau a water bottle for that scene. There's a part in this movie where I was thinking of that, because there's a part where 2 of the guys are in their hotel room, and after they have beer in their hands, and after every sentence, one of the guys says, it's line, 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 again and again. It is it is more unnatural than that green screen car chase from the movie I saw last night.
Man, all the vacation stuff was what you would expect from people who are not actors trying to improvise having fun on a vacation.
I mean, where there are endless conversations about selfies, and if there's not a conversation about selfies, they are just simply taking selfies for like half of this fucking movie.
They have the bit when they're in Italy, and then they start playing Volare in the background, so it's like a romance between him and his buddy for a while. Like, I guess they were just trying to pick it up a little bit, but people rightfully dog on Adam Sandler for a lot of his movies just being vacations in disguise. Okay, those movies, as bad as many of those are, there is still technically a plot happening in them. This one is literally these guys we are watching vacation footage for half of the movie. It's like watching Hostel if Eli Roth just followed around strangers with a camera and then they never got tortured. I'm just wondering, like, I brought this up before, like, how strange it would be to be playing yourself in a movie about what I would think be a very traumatic event in your life. Like, it was very heroic, but he was stabbed in the head, in the face, on the hand. Like, they could have been killed very easy. Like, it was just a slim chance that they made it through this thing. That guy's gun jammed. He could have shot him point blank right then. And, like, acting as yourself, being on a train, reenacting this event in your life, like, how strange would that be?
I could see how some people could have the stones for it, certainly.
I mean, I guess if that's what they did, they must have some balls. You know?
Yeah. I could certainly see. I could see why someone wouldn't want to. Certainly, because again, it would be a very traumatic thing to go through. But these guys and everything, I'm like, okay, yeah, I could see why they probably did have a lot of fun making this movie. They're working with Clint Eastwood.
And they got to go on vacation.
They got to go on vacation. That's half of the fucking movie. We got to do it again. We were talking earlier about Eastwood movies, because I grew up watching Eastwood movies. He's certainly a childhood hero of mine. Absolutely he is. I even love a lot of the movies that he's just done as a director without being in front of the camera. There's a lot of great movies to his name. There's a few I haven't seen, but by and large I have seen most of them, and I've vastly enjoyed more of them than I haven't. This movie is hands down the worst movie of his career. It's flabbergasting that it's Clint Eastwood. The only time in this movie where you can kind of tell Clint Eastwood is behind the camera is the part where that's the fight at the end, because Clint Eastwood, he can direct suspense, he can direct action, and that sequence is it's why this movie was made.
Yeah,
like,
that sequence is well done. That's the only well done sequence in the movie. Like, the only thing that's worth watching in it, because the rest of it just feels like you don't get any particularly good insight. You don't get anything funny or thought provoking. It's baffling that this was a nationally released movie.
A nationally released movie by an Academy Award winning director.
Yeah.
It's like finding out if Clint Eastwood directed God's Not Dead.
It kind of had some of those vibes. Yeah. It definitely did.
Yeah. It's edited like one of those movies. It is definitely acted like them.
Yeah, and it's lit like one of them too. Like, I wondered at the points where they have like the scenes with Judy Greer and the kid playing the kid version of one of the guys. Like, I kind of wondered if they were just filming in their childhood home, because it was such it was just such a crummy looking set, and like the lighting was really bad, and it reminded me of like Let There Be Light in that way. Like,
yeah.
I would never. It's hard to believe that this was Clint Eastwood, because like it feels like it should have been straight to video.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about like the acting, because like I'm pretty forgiving for these guys acting, and like,
yeah,
I don't think I've seen a lot worse from people who call themselves actors, but yeah. I mean, the script was horrible. They should have just from the ground up. It was a bad start.
at least as long as the movie felt, because it feels punishingly long. At least it was only 90 minutes.
You kept expecting it to get closer, because you're like, oh, they're in Europe, so they're going to go to Paris now, right? And you're like, no, we're going to Italy, and then we're going to go to... We're going to go to Amsterdam, we're going to go... We're like, oh, man, just get to the train.
Oh, my God, when they were about ready to go to Paris, and then the one guy comes up and says, no, you need to go to Amsterdam first.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, okay. And I'm like, oh, God.
it was other than the actual event, like, it was so boring.
And that is 5 minutes of this movie.
Yeah.
It is a short amount of this movie. It's insufferably boring. It is shocking that a movie this bad came from this director and this studio and all of these people behind it. It is the casting of the movie on part of the supporting cast, like the who's who TV actors showing up in the movie. It's weird. Like, I kept expecting Bronson Pinchot to show up in this.
Yeah. It just, nothing seemed to gel right at all. Like, it felt like you were watching a play.
Yeah. So don't go see this. It's it is worse than 50 Shades Freed. At least 50 Shades Freed. Don't get me wrong, 50 Shades Freed is fucking bad, but things happened in it, I'll give it that. 50 Shades Freed you can kind of watch and laugh at. This one, oh no, this was rough. This was shockingly rough to sit through. It's stunning how much they fucked up with this movie.
I feel like it would be an interesting documentary.
No, yeah, I agree with that.
If you wanted
yeah.
to talk about, like, they could talk about what their lives were like and what was going through their heads and the events, and I'm sure that there is footage of some things, not the actual attack, but I mean, you know, like, them talking to the president of France, like, that has to be something that was filmed.
Was it
France? French? Yeah.
Well, no, when at the end of the movie, were they splicing in like real footage?
I thought maybe they were.
Yeah.
It kind of looked like some of it was, because I think maybe the guys looked a little different. I could be wrong there. Some shots were definitely recreated because they had like the moms in it and stuff like that.
Unless they planned all the way back then that this movie was going to happen.
They knew.
Got Jenna Fisher and Judy Greer.
Yeah. But like, I don't know. It would be an interesting documentary because it is a really interesting story.
Yeah.
And I do think that these guys, like, there is a story to tell, but not in this form.
No, this is... No, not at all. Like, don't treat our heroes like this. Don't give them this 10% Rotten Tomatoes terrible movie.
Yeah, like, I feel bad for those guys right now because I'm sure it's not gonna be like it's probably got to be a downer, like the way that people react to this, like when they got to be in a movie about their lives.
Maybe, or maybe just at the end of the day they just take with them that they had fun making it. Because I'm sure they did.
I mean, I guess like they're not planning on continuing this movie career, so it's not like it's going to be damaging to them, and certainly they have, they still have the medals and the fact that they did this. So I mean,
unless because of Rotten Tomatoes,
they take it away. Here's your hall pass.
I have no son. Dad?
Yeah.
No, this is a hard pass. This is...
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend this movie at all.
No,
I would
not
say,
at all.
Props to those guys, but
yeah,
the
definitely.
movie itself, like, I wouldn't bother.
No, this is... Skip this. Jesus. Definitely go see Peter Rabbit. This one...
Peter Rabbit fights terrorists on the train, too.
Yes, if they somehow combine the two movies. Or if that's the sequel to Peter Rabbit.
Yeah.
He's fighting terrorists on
and
the
it
train.
also has those three guys in it playing themselves.
Man, that Roseanne episode where she's fighting terrorists on a train with Muse Steven Seagal was better than this film. At least that was only 20 minutes long. Terrible. Awful. All right. Thanks a bunch, everyone in the chat, for watching. I don't know what comes out next week because this movie was so bad, I'm pretty sure movies are canceled now. No, I take that back. Black Panther's next week. So, okay. All right. I'm gonna go home and go to bed. God, this sucked. All right. Thanks, everyone in the chat, for watching. See ya.